Good morning, everybody. Kind of morning here in Arizona. Welcome, 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 all people in Facebook land to my maybe 18th, maybe 19th Facebook Live of my 30-day. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Not that I have anything that I'm going to run out of topics to talk about. There's lots of stuff to talk about. Welcome to all of you who are coming back and hearing me talk again. Thank you for that. I love to talk about this stuff. The reason why, it seems counterintuitive as to why I would like to talk about this subject, because it's not a fun topic. I like to talk about it because it sheds light on a darkness. And I know that I personally have spent way too much time in that darkness, never plan on going back there. So my purpose is now to help all of you, every woman that I can, to either get out of that darkness and make your way to the light, or possibly even avoid it altogether. That would be cool. That would be really cool. It's a shame that we don't teach this shit in school. Can you imagine if we women, girls at the time, would have been taught in high school of like what abuse looks like, all the types of abuse and red flags, and maybe, you know, pump in some self-worth and self-esteem to our 16, 17-year-old selves. So I think that would solve a lot of the problems right there. But I digress, because we can't go back. That's okay. We can't go back to the past and fix anything, but we can do something about how we feel about it today, which will change how our future unfolds, right? If that makes sense. Okay, welcome, and to those of you who are new, I'm Susanna, there's my name, you get it. And I am a writer who is now venturing into obviously speaking out loud and not just putting my words from pen to paper or computer, I guess, to publish. And I am a narcissist recovery coach, helping women get over their narcissistic ex for good forever. In the rearview mirror, we know this, we're done, we've been through enough. So yeah, we need to move forward. Okay, just a reminder that my print book, You're Still That Girl, Get Over Your Abusive Ex for Good, will not be in bookstores until next year, but I do have my hot little hands, obviously, on more than this copy, on copies. And I would love to, I'm going to give out 10 autographed personal copies and mail them to you at no cost to you. So all you have to do to enter to win one of those, which I'll do on the last day of my Facebook Lives, is to share any of my videos. You don't even have to tell me you're sharing it, because I get a notification. So, and the more you share, the more you enter into winning a copy of my book, which I'm super pumped about. And this is a good message for all of you out there who are even thinking about telling your story and putting it into a book. Do it. I don't care how old you are. I'm 51 and this shit's just happening. I'm very young, 51. Like, I'm not even halfway there. I'm not even middle age. My plan is to go for 114. I'm planning also on slowing down around 111, maybe 110, maybe find myself a nice vineyard to just chill out and sit on a mountaintop or something, or sit in the vineyard. I don't know what it's exactly going to look like, but that's my plan. So I'm not even middle aged. So for all of you who are, let's get the perspective corrected or shifted, and it's never too late to do what you want to do, to speak out, to tell your story, whatever it is. Okay. Today I thought there was something else I was going to say, but I don't know. See, I I don't even take many notes. I mean, this is like my little list. That's it. Just a reminder of make sure to cover today, but this is all off the cuff that I'm doing, which is great because it's like we're having a conversation, even though I can't see you. I know you're all out there with all your fantastic energy, and I love in the comments that, you know, everybody's being there for each other and able to share your story and know that this is a safe place. So we spoke about victim blaming yesterday. No victim blaming allowed. That's a solid line in cement for me. Not allowed. I won't even allow you to do it to yourself. I will totally call you out on that shit. Ask the women I work with. There's no, ma'am, not doing that. Today, I thought we would talk about the double life of a narcissist, because that goes hand in hand, right? There's narcissist. Many things go hand in hand with a narcissist. Like they're pathological liars. We know that. All of them. It's just, and I want to, excuse me, I want to go back to, remember yesterday, I was talking about when we're victim blaming and what that looks like. And there had been a comment about how the word narcissist is overused. So let me address that. When I'm talking about narcissists, I'm talking about true narcissists. Yes, that word can be tossed around where everybody and their, you know, brother and sister are calling each other narcissists. You know, I believe there are two extremes, right? Where there's the extreme where we're calling everybody a narcissist who does something even remotely, you know, acts in any particular way, like does one thing and we're labeling them a narcissist. So that's one extreme. We don't want to do that. Especially nowadays, narcissist, pardon the pun, is all the rage, right? Everybody's talking about it. So we don't want to go to that extreme. But we also don't want to go to the other extreme, which silences victims, in that we leave it solely up to the professionals to diagnose a narcissist. And unless they're professionally diagnosed, we cannot see them as a narcissist. That's bullshit. First of all, because so many professionals are not even schooled in what a narcissist is. Hence the reason that, you know, you hear story after story of people going into therapist's office with being a victim of narcissistic abuse and being re-traumatized all over again because the therapist doesn't get it. So we don't want to go to that extreme either. I believe that we need to, you know, go in that middle ground where our logic is and where our intuition is. I call it, you know, good fortune. I was fortunate enough that my ex actually was professionally diagnosed. That did help me because it validated me as to what he was, right? So that was validating. But without that diagnosis, if we were to base our opinion or how we see things solely on our logic and our intuition, we know, you know, right? If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, and yes, I should say a snake, right? I like ducks. Well, I like snakes more than narcissists. Anyway, you get the picture, right? You add it up. 2 + 2 + 2 = 6. You don't need a professional to come in and tell you that 2 + 2 + 2 = 6, okay? Anyway, I just wanted to clear that up. So when I'm speaking of narcissists, we're speaking of true narcissists who are gaslighters, pathological liars, who are abusive. They are emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, psychologically abusive, right? Cover all bases. You know, they hoover, they gaslight, they bait and switch, they love bomb, all these things. Add that up, you know, if you've just come out of a relationship with a narcissist. And not just, you know, some people are just assholes and you're like, you're just an asshole. Sometimes they're both assholes and narcissists. Anyway, my point being is that let's stay in the middle there. Let's try to avoid these extremes, right? We don't want to go around calling everybody narcissists, but we do want to give credit and validate those people who have had experiences, painful experiences from narcissists, from the abuse that they hurl out. Okay, so part of that, hi everybody joining. Part of that abuse is in, like I was saying, narcissist is, that's equivalent of saying pathological liar, gaslighter. The other thing is that they have a double life. Now, when I say double life, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is just your typical double life that you know that you see in the movies and stuff. Like you just and that happens in real life sometimes. Is that they're married or they have, you know, you see this on Dateline, right? Where they have this whole big other life that's hidden from you, like other wife, other children. And they're really not, maybe they're living under an alias. So that's the typical, what we think of as a double life. Really, essentially, narcissists are living all sorts of lives, right? Because they have all sorts of masks for who they are with at the time. So they are living this double life, and long before a victim or target, whatever word you want to use, before we ever know, right? Because it starts, this is where the smear campaign comes in. So you meet the narcissist, they love bomb the hell out of you, you get on board, you fall hard and fall fast, you're in their web. They, at the same time, are creating a narrative about you. It may seem innocent in the beginning. It may seem innocent enough, right? I'll tell you one thing that appeared very innocent, and over the years, as it went on, I realized first, actually, how incredibly, I mean, if you want to abuse somebody, how incredibly devious this is to even think of doing this, right? And remember, narcissists do what they do on purpose and with intent. They do what they do on purpose, and they know what they're doing, okay? Just we're clear on that. So anyway, it starts, again, what may seem innocent enough, or just you wouldn't be able to detect it. So for example, in my case, I'm going to share part of my story again. Here I go. No, I'm just kidding. I love telling my story because I was silenced for so long that I love to tell my story now because it got me. Listen, when you're over here and you're being bullied and harassed and threatened into silence, and then you escape and you're like, give them the finger and you're like, no, like what power do you think that you have? No human being has the right to shut you up. No human being has the right to shut you up. You're a fucking adult, okay? Kind of directing this to the women out there. You are an adult. I'm talking to myself back then too. You're an adult. No one has the right to shut you up. No one. Or to threaten you into silence. So here I go. Okay, so one of the things that, like I said, I mean, give credit where credit is due. As far as you want to know how devious a person can get, I always say, think of the lowest possible thing that a person could do. And a narcissist will go lower, guarantee you. When we were in the beginning, so the beginning being the first 4 or 5 years, 3, 4, or 5 years, I would have, and we knew a lot of people in our little town, I would have people come up to me a lot and tell me, wow, he loves you so much. He's always talking about what a great mother you are. This was a regular thing for years, right? And in the beginning, he would tell me what a fantastic mother I was. And I felt like a fantastic mother. Anyway, I just had in the very beginning, I just had my firstborn son. And then we I popped out 2 more. And all was great, because I thought, wow, this guy, he's, you know what narcissists do, right? They lift you up on that pedestal, and they choose the qualities about you that are fantastic and wonderful and beautiful, because they're vampires, and they want to suck those qualities out of you later on. So in the beginning, it all seemed innocent and wonderful, right? He wasn't going around telling people, this is where narcissists are really genius. He wasn't going around telling people, like what he started telling me at home, that I couldn't hack it, that I wasn't a good mother, that I couldn't compete with the other mothers of the world or country, especially his sister. It wasn't even his real sister. I told you the alias story. Anyway, so behind closed doors, those are things he started saying to me after, 3-4 years, and then especially once I gave birth to our second and third children. Still, people would come to me and say, wow, all he says is what a great mother you are. This worked perfectly into his plan, right? Because he was endearing himself to people to make him look like the good guy, the great husband, the great father, right? Well, meanwhile, he was undermining me as a mother. So this is part of that double life. He's doing this out with people, creating this narrative that at the time I thought it was just really confusing after a few years, because people would still, even my friends would say, he's never said a bad word about, you as a mother, or it's all good. And I'm like, because just the other day we were in the airport and he said something so horrible that I stood up and I almost threw my beer in his face. We were sitting and, he said something so awful about that I just couldn't hack it like his sister. And he was going on and on about how great of a mother his sister was. And then I couldn't compete, right? I should have thrown the beer in his face. If you get a chance to do that in a public place, please do, for me, on my behalf, on my regret that I didn't throw that beer at him and embarrass him publicly. So this is one example of the double life, is the smear campaign. They're creating this while you're with them, okay? Because think of it this way. If he were to go to everybody and bash you, to your family and to your friends who love you, then they wouldn't give him the time of day. They'd think he's an ass, right? And they might even come tell you that, hey, this guy's totally bad-mouthing you. And, so it was genius, because he really, this is part of their double life. So this is the mask he was wearing to specific people, right? That he would endear himself. And boy, did he. Oh my God. Let me tell you, over the years, all the women who baked him cakes, pies, they'd go out, get their fresh fruit from the farmer's market and make him his favorite pie he loved. I won't say what that is, but anyway, it was his favorite. They would invite him over for dinner when I was out of town. I didn't get this shit, people. I didn't get pies. I didn't get invited over for dinner when he was out of town, which he was often, because he'd go back to his home country to do whatever he was doing down there. So this was really genius. This is, if you're going to be an abusive son of a bitch, I mean, why not go for it, right? This is what they do. This is part of that double life. The other part, yes, somebody is, sometimes I don't know if anybody wants me to say their name, so I'll try not to. I never know. But it's dependent on who their audience is as to what masks that they wear. So like to mutual friends, they'll wear this mask and set this up. To their own family members, oh, he was really brilliant at that too. So one of the things that he would, and again, this is the double life, is with his family, He was creating a certain narrative, okay? Like I told you about, after a couple of years and I started posting my story on Facebook, my former sister-in-law, whom I had no relationship with, he barely had a relationship, seen her 5 minutes in 16 years, right? Never met my kid. I mean, right, no relationship, and comes at me with these incredible stories of what I was doing. A lot of you remember taking too many naps. I won't get into that, but anyway, a lot worse than taking too many naps when I had just given birth. Because this is what they're doing. They're spinning these stories about you. That's why when it comes down to the big blow up, right, or the big who leaves who, doesn't matter, that's why their story is already well written, right? That book about you is already well written, and you don't have a freaking clue about it. You don't even know this book is out there about you, right? But it's out there. And they have been doing this for a very, very long time to set themselves up to be the victim and to set you up to be the messed up one, the perpetrator, the crazy one, all that. It makes sense why they do this. So another way that he would do this is he was with his specific family members. There would be instances of, let's say he was at a family member's, he was with a family member, and he would call me on the phone, okay? And I'll give you one instance. There's 50, 100 of these. So, and this plays into the financial abuse aspect too, that I'll talk about on one of these days. So he was always with me every single month, making a big deal about finances, scaring the shit out of me and our kids. We lived in a 10,000 square foot house on 10 acres, people, right? We were not hurting, okay? But he would make it sound like we were. He was always stressed about money. He was always giving me a hard time about every single cent that I spent. I only had one credit card. He gave me an allowance every month. It was all it was financial abuse, in a nutshell. So during this narrative of he's always getting after me for money, like literally if I would go spend however much because I had to go get school supplies. And for any of you who know what it's like, any of you mothers out there who know at the beginning of the school year, so I had 3 kids going to Walmart with the list with each of them, which I don't know where this list came from, because when I was in high school and elementary school and junior high, like we just had to bring a pencil. And even if we forgot that, we could probably borrow one. But we know that's changed. So there's a lot of money that you got to spend. So he would give me a hard time about that. So he calls me, he's with his, with a family member, and he's out of town visiting, and he's talking to me, and I can, he's like right next to the family member, and he's talking to me, telling me that he and this family member are going to go, he wants to go buy a new big screen television for his office. He'd already had like 2 screens there because he liked to be surrounded by screens, and then also have a TV. So my first reaction was like, what the fuck? Like you just gave me a 2-hour lecture on how we have no money. And I'm saying this, and then he twists it around on the other, to the family member can't hear what I'm saying. And so he twists it around and says, I don't understand why I work so hard, and I really would just like to buy this one thing for myself. I never spend money on myself. And it was all like, bleh, it was all like sappy. And I'm just like, what? And then I can literally feel this family member just like, you fucking bitch. Okay, this is a mask. This is part of that double life. You see, I can laugh about this now. I have to laugh about this. There's just no other choice. We have to laugh about this. Yes, and like Melissa's saying, that they don't tell the truth about you. So like if you're having a fight or you're having issues, they'll twist it so that they're the victim, right? They'll twist it so that they're the victim. And it sets you up in a bad light. One of the things that you know, that book that they write about you, one of the constant narratives he was saying about me was that despite being a great mom, taking too many naps, I was suffering from depression and I was emotionally unstable. This played in perfectly to when I stopped going out socially the last couple of years, because I was so beaten down and I had put myself into an emotional coma. I stopped going out. And when I did go out, I was a mess, right? I had lost weight. I had huge dark circles under my eyes. I looked like shit. And I didn't tell anybody. So all people had was his word of what was going on behind closed doors, because I didn't tell anybody, not even my closest friend. I told them a little bit about things he would do, right? But I didn't tell him the details. I was too friggin' embarrassed, first of all, because I thought it was all my fault. Okay, this double life, how does it is so destructive to victims, is because once we get to that place where we're at the end, or we've just escaped, or maybe they left, right? But we've moved out of it. Then it's almost like this tidal wave comes and surprises us. We're not expecting this. Like, we already have to deal with our pain and heartbreak of just, like I said, it's like getting into a car wreck, a bad car wreck, and afterward you just need time to recover. You just need time to breathe. It's kind of like you've been swimming, or almost drowning for so long that you finally make it to shore, and you just gotta like, you know, grab onto that sand and put your face in the sand and just catch your breath. Then you have the effects of what this double life, I say double, it's like multiple lives, because they wear multiple masks, that can sometimes rain down on you all at once. It's really painful. The double life that is oftentimes the catalyst for the end of the relationship is the actual finding out by the victim of what they're doing. This can include also that discovery. Maybe you have gone, maybe you've sought help and somebody was able to tell you that this was a narcissist. Maybe you started your discovery journey and you're, you know, educating yourself on narcissism within it. So that's a sense of, wow, this is this double life, right? That it's like, I thought I was with this person. I thought I loved this person. But this isn't who this person was, right? They've been masquerading. It's an illusion. A lot of times, like in my case, the double life is the catalyst for, you know, like I said at the beginning, where, you know, it is like in the movies where you discover that they actually are living a double life when they're out of your presence. Why is this so painful? Duh, it's so painful because your life is ripped from you. It's stolen from you without your consent. You had a life, whether that included children or businesses or, you know, whatever, extended family, plans for the future, where you lived, where you wanted to go, goals, dreams, desires that you made together. All of that is gone. It's just gone, right? I always liken it to a hurricane. We see what's happening right now with Hurricane Dorian, the devastation in a matter of a few hours, just absolute devastation. This is what the discovery of a double life of the narcissist does, is it's just gone. I told you, I shared with you that my realization of, you know, this was like a fire that consumed my whole house and everything inside, and I'm just left out standing outside holding my kids' hands with nothing and wondering, where do I go from here, right? Because it was stolen from me without my consent. Good question, Mike. So how do they learn to do this? Like smear campaign and to this book that they're writing about you to set you up, because this is who narcissists are. It's not like they ever stop doing this. This is what they're constantly doing with everybody. It just so happens that when you're intimately involved with them and you're building a life with them, then you are the one that's the direct target of what they're doing, right? So a narcissist, this is just inherent for them, just like it is that they're pathological liars. Whoever they're in front of, they need that supply. They need to feed themselves. Remember, think of the emotional vampires that just need to suck it out of you. And so it's just something that they do with the purpose of remaining the victim for themselves, to make them look like the victim. If anybody were to use logic, though, at after a breakup between a narcissist and a victim of a narcissist, it's so easy to see. It's really so easy to see if we just use logic. Like all the people that surrounded us when the whole double life exploded of him, and all the people who knew me and knew us over the years as a couple, the fact that when this all blew up and I hightailed it out of there because it was a small town and I knew that you can't heal in the same place that you got sick. Somehow I inherently knew that. It really just took logic for anybody watching, right, to understand that, you know what, we've been played. It just takes logic, especially when you're looking at afterwards about how each behaves. You have the narcissist who just continues on. They find their new supply. They're fine. And then you have the victim who 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, is to some extent still struggling, still, you know, having physical issues, having PTSD, having anxiety, going through triggers and flashbacks and all the steps that are required for getting out and healing after an abusive relationship. So if we just were to look at it, I wish everybody would look at it logically, but people in that town did not look at it logically. They bought his story and act hook, line, and sinker, which I can say that freely now, but I'll tell you what, that was a super painful realization for me. Super painful that more people, I had a couple people, but that more people weren't like, we're not buying your story. Instead, a lot of people not only bought his story, but they enabled his story and they bought a ticket to his one-man show. They continue to buy a ticket. These are the fence sitters people or the flying monkeys. There's nothing to do about them. You just got to let them go as part of the healing. So I'm just looking at comments and questions. So this double life, this is why it's so destructive, is because it's not just like what happened in my case, just the catalyst. They're living so many multiple lives with so many, depending on who their audience is, right? But it's all geared to set you up and make them come away as the victim in the end, because they know, narcissists know that they can't keep up the charade that they showed you in the first 6 months, year, even 2 years, all that love bombing and stuff, they can't keep that shit up. They can't. Their mask falls off, and those closest to them, usually their intimate partners and their children, are oftentimes the only one who sees it. So even though the double life that I uncovered was difficult in itself, what happened then after it was this continuing of, even though the effects that I had to deal with were so painful and heartbreaking, right? Of the big double life that I discovered. But then the covering it up, and it was just an extension of that double life that he was leading. So for example, we were a couple who, yeah, Trisha's saying she wouldn't believe herself years ago. I know. Like, I know. That's where we get to. So the catalyst for me was, and the way that my life was just stolen from me. And again, this was just the catalyst. This is just what I uncovered and discovered about the person I was with. This is long before I knew what a narcissist was or had any inkling I was in an abusive relationship. Like, I was just trying to survive, get up in the morning and get to my bed at night. That's all I could think about at the time. So when I discovered this double life, which included, double lives, they include that it's not just these actions that they're doing, but it's this whole persona that you're like you think another person just walked in the door. You don't know who this person is. I remember how it started, and that feeling of that sick feeling of realizing I don't know who this man is, but that sick feeling of, oh my God, this has been going on. I just had, my instinct was like, this has been going on for some time. Like, this is the real him. And that's where that sick feeling and that pain comes from. It's because I had that realization in that moment that this was not who he said it was. It's no different than discovering that this isn't even his, this wasn't the case in my case, but if you were to discover that this isn't even his name, when you see people like on Dateline, I like Dateline, they go undercover, they fake their own death, and then they just pop up somewhere with a new name and get a new family and all of that. This is on the same level because they show you who they really are. And this is not somebody I would have ever gotten involved with, ever, if I would have known the real man that he was. So when this happened, and I'll tell you how it started. And when I look back, obviously all the signs are there. All the signs are there. When I look back, there's no big surprise, to be honest. It was just, I was in such I was in that emotional coma I put myself in. So wasn't that I wasn't paying attention. Because he had locked me out of his office, his computer, his cell phone. That had been a normal thing that, I just was too tired. I had 3 kids. I was too tired to play detective or to do that shit. I just, like I said, when I got up in the morning, I'm like, I just need to get to the end of the day. That's all I could do. So there were, obviously, when I look back, there were tons and tons of signs. But how it first started would seem innocent enough. But I was in my house, and he had just gone to visit his family for a week in another state. Right before he was leaving for the airport, I had met him for lunch. Actually, my mother was with me because she was there when this all came crashing down. Thank God I wasn't alone. Thank God she was there. She just happened to be visiting. And so I went to lunch with him and, you know, wished him that he was going to have a good trip and so forth. And this was in 2011. 2011 was it was actually September 2011, 9/11. That was my 9/11. I'm telling you, 2011 was the worst year of my life. There's no way I will ever have a worse, it was the worst year of my life. Not because of only that catalyst, this happened in September, but because of that whole year leading up to it, when he was exceptionally cruel and getting crueler by the day, hiding more and more things. I was sicker than ever, physically speaking. It was just, every day was awful. So when this all happened, so he, you know, took off on his plane. And I remember when he left after we had lunch, he was just, I was trying to be loving and send him off. And he was just, no, he had turned the switch. He was cold as ice, not having it. So he left. My mom and I just headed back to the house. Many hours later that same day, now he had just gotten a phone. He used to have a flip phone. It's back in 2011. And he got one of those phones that you could hook on your belt, right? And he had issues with it because it kept butt dialing the house. Okay, so we had these issues for, you know, a month or so since he got the phone, and I'd pick up and I could hear him, but he had no idea that he was. Anyway, so this was a thing. So later that day, he calls me to tell me that he's landed, and he sounds awful. He is like, you know what? I can't really talk, but I just want to let you know that I landed. I'm feeling really sick. And I was like, oh my God, are you okay? Do you have, you know, did you get sick from the flight? Or he's like, oh, there's just a ton of turbulence and I'm just not feeling very well. And I'm like, hey babe, just sit down at the airport. Just take some, you can call me later. It's fine. No problem. Okay. I hang up. His phone butt dials me back. I thank my lucky stars this happened to me, but I will tell you it was the worst day of my life. But I'm so glad that it happened. I'm so glad that this happened, because that was like, I had been begging the universe to like send me a cement truck in my direction to tell me what to do, because I was so miserable. So this was a jumbo jet being flown in my face of what the universe was like, okay, you want a sign? Here's the fucking sign. So his phone butt dialed me back. He didn't know it. And the first thing I hear are two people and one woman laughing hysterically. The other one was him laughing. Then I can't hear what she's saying, but I can hear what he's saying. She has an accent. Which plays into later. She has an accent and she is just giggling and laughing at everything he says. And what he was saying was disgusting. I don't even know who this guy was. I'm like, he wasn't the guy that I first met. This was like a sleazy guy. Like, this was a guy who just, I'm like, do you not know how to talk to women? Who is this guy? Anyway, I sat there on the phone for probably 30 minutes till it cut out. I heard them walking all through the airport, nonstop laughter, nonstop gross pervert flirting from him. It was gross. It was like, if me and my friends were to see, if a guy in a bar comes up and says this shit to you, you're like, no, go away. It was disgusting. And I didn't even, because like I said, he wasn't like that with me when we first met. He was charming. He was wonderful. This was none of that. So I listened for about 30 minutes, of which the last probably 20 had to be in the bathroom because I was throwing up. And until they got to, you know, I heard the airport announcements, I heard them at baggage claim, and then the phone cut out. What that did was set me on, because he was going to be gone a week. And you can ask my mom, I was a mess that next week, but I decided I'm going to go unlock everything. I'm going to go look at everything. I'm going to read every fucking email. I'm going to do everything. I went to we had a lot of accounts at banks and lots of We had all sorts of stuff in our businesses that I just never knew about. I just went in and signed things for many, many years. We had like 4 or 5 banks that we dealt with. So I did everything that week. I went everywhere. I got into everything. I broke into his files. I went into his computer. I did everything. I did everything. Turns out I'm a pretty damn good detective. And I want to tell any of you who, you know, that whole thing about, oh, you got to respect somebody's privacy. Yeah, but not in cases like this. No, you need to know what the hell's going on, right? So don't ever feel bad about finding the shit out for yourself. Anyway, the double life that I uncovered, which again, this was not a sudden or a surprise thing now that I look back. The double life that I uncovered included him grooming, young, very young. He had to buy their liquor for them that young, but they were legal. I'm going to leave it there. They were also the age of our oldest son. I'll leave that there. So we can just put the ick factor into it. Grooming them to convince one of them eventually to stay in the country permanently and replace me, which is what happened. Now, during this time, his double life in the community was, there's a guy who's helping these young girls, right? They're from another country. They're in to work in our small town. Everybody gathered around them, helped them out. That's what he was doing. He was helping them out. So he'd take them on little canoe trips. He took them to the rodeo. He danced with them, all of that. And everybody around is like, aw, isn't that sweet? Look what a great guy he is, okay? This is what's going on with double lives of narcissists, because if he hadn't prepared for something like that beforehand, right, where he endeared everybody to what a great guy he was. And in the beginning, he was adamant that he would never do anything so disgusting. I even went to, it was a mutual friend, but who was a realtor, but we had done business with her. And she was very close to especially him. So I went to her because she knew all about these girls. And I went to her during that week he was gone, out of a moment of desperation, because I was like, I need to know, because this is what's happening. This is what I've discovered. And there were a lot of things I discovered. Like he bought one of them a plane ticket. He spent money on, anyway, he cooked for them at our house. All sorts of shit, creepy pervert shit was going on. But I remember even when I shared this, and it was really hard for me to share because it was so embarrassing that the man I had married turned out to be this person. This person, she didn't believe me. She said, there's no way he would ever do something like that. And I said, you know what? I bet you're right. And I started believing it. So then when I confronted him about it, even though I had all the proof, but at that point, you're so invested in the person that you thought you loved, right? And you have children with them, and you're all of that. It's not easy to just be like, well, I'm done, right? That's not easy to do. So even when I confronted him, and this is another thing narcissists are great at, right? Everybody, y'all know this, when they throw it right back at you. Even though they've done something, then they throw it back at you to make you feel guilty for either confronting them or finding out something about them or calling them on their shit, whatever that is. They manipulate and throw it right back at you. So when I confronted him about these girls, the first words out of his mouth were, he was indignant. He was just infuriated. I can't believe you would accuse me of something so disgusting. They are just kids. Kids, that's the word he used. They are just kids. I let it go. Because I was like, oh my God, what am I thinking? Oh, he's just being a nice guy. What am I thinking? Oh my God, he would never do something so disgusting. People, they do something that disgusting. They do it all. Like I said, pick a line that as low as you can go, as low as you can think of, and they're going to go lower. So these double lives, they have the potential and capability. That's why victims come out of it so, we are just so mind fucked at that point, right? We're everything about us, our mind, our soul, our spirit, our heart, everything has been so damaged, again, like that, you know, like you've just been in a horrific car accident. That's why it's so hard to recover after these double lives. So I just want to leave here today with, it's really important that that we all understand the extensive double lives of narcissists, the multiple lives, the multiple masks they wear for everybody, because then you can be more prepared when you are recovering, healing, when shit comes up. One of those things, the biggest thing is, you know, that smear campaign, that book that they've been writing about you, which is almost finished, that they've been writing. Well, as you're like, what book? What book? Somebody's writing a book about me? I didn't even know. I didn't approve. What? Right? They're almost done with the book. So when you come out of it and you have people coming to you and they already believe this narrative, that's why it's really important to, remember I was telling you about that safe circle you need to create for yourself. Go into your cocoon. Bring your kids if you have them. Go in there and only surround yourself with safe people. Not the fence sitters, not the ones who are believing that book he wrote about you. Don't bring them in there, right? They don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. People who deserve to be in your presence, especially when you're healing and recovering and you're in that tender place, they will prove to you that they deserve to be there. They will be 100% there for you. You will feel safe with them. You won't feel like you have to defend yourself, okay? It's just such a painful realization at the same time that you're dealing with, how do I recover from this? How do I recover from the abusive relationship with a narcissist? And then on top of that, how do I rewrite this story that's been written about me? So I'll tell you how you rewrite it. And this is part of what I'm doing today. You take your power back. You empower yourself. This is exactly what I'm doing today. I'm rewriting my story. Now, I'm not rewriting it for anybody who believed his book about me. They can have his book. Keep it. Keep it. Stay over there. I'm rewriting my story and I'm taking my power back. That's why I'm doing these Facebook Lives. That's why I write all that I do. That's why I'm never going to run out of words, right? Because I'm just going to keep rewriting my story and taking that power back from all those years when he was writing it for me, unbeknownst to me. And yes, unfortunately, that smear campaign bleeds over into our kids. It does, unfortunately. Like I said, a narcissist, however low you put that bar, they're gonna go lower and get under it. They do it with their own kids. They will, absolutely. I mean, the story that, because out of our 3 children, my 2 oldest have made a decision not to have a relationship. Their stories, the stories that he tells of why that is, that's not the true story. That's not the true story, right? It usually involves something to the effect of, you know, this is, I'm sure a lot of you have heard it if you have kids, is that you're brainwashing your kids. It's all your fault, you know, or just whatever. Like I said, if people are going to read that story and believe that story that he's spinning, keep them out. Just let them be over there, right? You're not going to convince them anyway. So don't waste your precious energy trying to do that. Just stand in your space, own your space, and take your life back. Take your life back from those fuckwads who have stolen it from you. Right? Just take it back. And you have every right to not only take it back, but shout it from the highest mountaintop too. Because nobody has a right to tell you to not tell your story. Because you're telling the truth. Remember yesterday? It doesn't take, I mean, it does take two to tango, but this narcissistic abuse is not a fucking dance. So it doesn't, no, there's no two sides to the story. There's the truth, and that's what you need to tell. Okay, heavy topic today. I guess they're always heavy. I appreciate so much everybody with their comments. I'm going to go in and read them all after, and I just really appreciate everybody being here for everybody else and supporting everybody, because I know there's a lot of you out there that can't even like this video because people are watching. So it's nice to just, you know, for anybody out there to know that this is a safe place, and we're all here for each other, united in the common cause of, well, one day hopefully getting them their own island or something. Yeah, but for now we're gonna take our lives back, and start. You're gonna start living a life that you deserve. Okay. So remember, whatever videos you share, I will put you in for an entry to win that. I'm going to put the link into my website right now, because if you want to read my book now, this is the new cover. That's the original cover. But if you want to read this now on ebook on your Kindle or on your computer, I am putting in my website, and go get your free copy if you haven't read it. And also, I will put in the event schedule. I'm getting better at this copy paste, getting quick. Event schedule. I go around the country with Chris Godinez. We talk to small groups of people, all things narcissist. It's a great, if you're in the area, we'll be in Reno on September 14th, which is coming up. Again, it's small groups, so if you know you're going to be there, get your ticket now, because our last two events sold out. And it's just a fantastic way to spend a few hours on a Saturday afternoon. Come and get support and guidance and love and some hugs, and be around other people who share your experience. No victim blaming, no fence sitters at these events, right? We're just all in and all here for you. So, and then I did open up, I'm putting, and sometimes I can't talk when I'm pasting, I just can't. I'm just putting in my schedule, because I did open up, I think 2 times for this Friday, because I started filling up. If you want to just hop on a call with me, I'd love to talk to you. If you want to share more of your story, you know, it's always great to talk to somebody who's been there. And again, just a safe place. I'm here for you. Okay, so I'll see you all tomorrow. To all of you still struggling, still hurting, still making your way through this mess of a recovery and labor process. See, I was just going to compare it to labor. It is. It's compared to labor. If you've ever given birth, it's like the same thing. It's just like pain all the time, but just to some degree or another, right? It's like you got a little bit of pain. Now today you got a lot of pain. Same thing. So for all of you, I just want to remind you, especially those who are feeling a little hopeless or still in that darkness and can't see the light. I just want to promise you that there is a better life, a life that you deserve waiting for you. I am proof of that. And again, never too late. It's never too late. Never too late to start living the life that you deserve. Okay. Okay, much love to all of you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.